Are you tired of having to deal with smokescreen? Have you ever felt like no matter what you throw at a set of ships, it seems like they never actually get hit by it? Does the sheer sight of a certain super rare maid cause you to uncontrollably scream out in anger? Or maybe the presence of 3 Chinese cruisers giving you more flashbacks than Vietnam ever could? If you said yes to any of these, then what you need is the one and only HMS Cinnamon Roll. You see, this cinnamon roll is not only precious, but it can also make sure your team is more accurate with their shots. How does it work, you ask? Well, we can't tell you, because Akashi said so. Now you can get this lovely item for only 3 payments of all of your gems. Just call the number on screen and we'll send you your very own HMS Cinnamon Roll. This product was not made for kids. Alright, next up on our list is the light cruiser from the Royal Navy, HMS Aurora. Now Aurora is one of the many ships that are available right now. The only thing you have to do is roll builds in the light pool, and good luck with that one. The light pool is, it's got a lot of ships in it, so it might take some time before you actually can pull her. On the right side though, you might be able to get your hands on the #1 ship in the game in that pool. I'm not kidding, you're probably gonna pull maybe 5 or 6 copies of her before you even get one Aurora. Of course, you wouldn't want to scrap those spares, right? Anyway, the Royal Navy's light cruisers are known for providing a lot of nice benefits for their fellow teammates, and are used from time to time in both PvP and PvE. But how does Aurora do when compared against the many light cruisers that exist for the Royal Navy? Will she be able to stand out, or is she simply just a cinnamon roll? Well, let's dive into her stats and see what really makes her tick. Starting off with her survival stats, Aurora has one of the lowest health pools for light cruisers. Heck, there are several ships of lower rarities that actually manage to beat her significantly in that regard. Now this can prove to be quite worrisome in a lot of engagements, as she can be quickly defeated if things work against her. Her light armor also makes things a lot worse, as she'll take significantly more damage from various gun types and ammo types, so long-term survival could be an issue for her. Now when it comes to evasion, she sits at around an average stat when compared to other ships within her rarity. This is fine, but it doesn't give her any edge against ships with higher health, since both will still be likely to get hit. Lastly, her anti-air stat is above average, but this again doesn't give her much bargaining power when compared against other ships of her rarity. I mean, now of course if we're looking for anti-air, then I might suggest a completely different character for that. Now onto her offensive stats, Aurora's firepower is about average as well. Compared to a lot of other elite Royal Navy cruisers, she's probably one of the best at that, until you count retrofit ships into this grouping as well. Her torpedo stats are also about average when compared to other elite cruisers. Of course, she does decently, but if you're looking for cruisers with high torpedo stats, then she's definitely not what you want to look for. Lastly, her reload is well above average, but again, that's not a major stat to brag about. Diving into her equipment efficiencies, Aurora continues to be about average. Her main CL gun efficiency struggles at probably one of the lowest efficiencies I've seen so far. This combined with an average firepower stat means she won't do as much damage as many of her counterparts. Her torpedoes are at an average efficiency, so while she can beat some of her Royal Navy counterparts, the Sakura Empire will still have the final laugh in that regard. Now keep in mind that like many other torpedo cruisers, she gains an additional torpedo upon receiving her second limit break. Lastly, her anti-air gun is surprisingly higher in terms of efficiency than most cruisers of her rarity. So it seems like she's trying to take a page out of San Diego's playbook here. But she'll have to settle with being number 2 for now. So overall, her overall stat line and equipment setup really isn't something that stands out. Well, at least for good reasons. Her overall health pool will be a major concern in most fights, so that is something to consider. I mean, heck, my Nimi with health boosting equipment can actually surpass her in terms of health pool, and I really don't even know how to feel about that. If we were to level her to level 120, she does get some decent boosts, but again, nothing too crazy to make her stand out against her competitors. So overall, she's really not having the best start right now. However, as always, skills can make a difference in this regard, so let's see how she stands as we factor those in. Aurora's first skill is Silver Phantom, which increases the damage dealt to enemy destroyers, transport vessels, torpedo boats, and suicide boats by up to 20%. As always, any skill that boosts overall damage output is fine in my book. Unfortunately, this skill isn't exactly a major bargaining chip for her to use either. Now there are a few other skills similar to this, like Pocket Battleship from the Deutschland class, and those are, well, way better overall. The only real benefit this skill will have in PvE was going to simply just be destroyers and suicide boats. Running into transport vessels is a bit RNG based, as you'll have to get a transport fleet as a node to even encounter them, and honestly I don't remember the last time I ran into a torpedo boat that wasn't in the daily. Now in PvP, this skill is even less utilized as it only applies to destroyers. I guess that might help, but there's a better reason why some might use her in PvP. Her second skill is the Light of Dawn. This passive skill decreases the evasion rate of all enemy destroyers and light cruisers by up to 20%. Now in PvE, this skill I don't feel like has any purpose whatsoever. But in PvP, things are very different. A good number of ships in the Royal Navy have a smokescreen skill which can boost your Vanguard's evasion rate by a decent amount. This can be extremely frustrating as players may find themselves dealing with the RNG against the evasion stat and the evasion rate. So it's likely they might miss a majority of their shots, especially if it's against ships with already high levels of evasion stats, or it could be worse and they're just dealing with... Anyway, Aurora's skill basically works against smokescreen. So the next time that you're up against smokescreen using ships that think they'll never get hit by you, just bring Aurora and she'll say, "Are you sure about that?" One thing worth noting is that while she works as a counter to smokescreen, she herself is not a complete counter to the skill. If the skills are leveled up, she'll only reduce the evasion rate partially. But don't think that she will 100% solve that problem if the enemy team relies heavily on smokescreen. It's still honestly a bit funny that the characters she's best against are from her own faction. But hey, thou shalt give it the evasion rate and thou shalt take it away. Anyway, now for the big question, mob or boss fleet Vanguard? Honestly, it's a bit of a struggle to suggest her for PvE. Her first skill definitely will help when those situations are met, but I don't think her second skill can really apply in PvE whatsoever. As I mentioned earlier, that first skill can be quite beneficial when those ships are available and active. Now with boss fights in particular, I would say to follow the same advice as Warspite. One needs to pay attention to what the boss's ship type is. In all honesty though, she's probably a ship I'd keep for PvP purposes, and even then, only if you're trying to counter characters that boost evasion rates. Sadly, she still can't fully counter it, and even then there's still the fact that she could be wiped out very quickly if things don't work out in your favor, because of her health pool. Now, Aurora doesn't synergize with anyone, but this does mean that she doesn't have any restrictions. Now, you can pair her with Belfast in PvP, and have a slight advantage against an enemy Belfast, as well, you'll be taking away some of the evasion rate that Belfast will provide in smokescreen. Now, this can give you a huge advantage in PvP, but again, with her low health pool, I do worry about, certain setups. Overall, Aurora is a very niche ship that seems better left for PvP scenarios than PvE. It's a bit disappointing that she isn't a complete counter to the smokescreen buff, especially with how many ships can use this skill, but she will do better against certain destroyers in PvP. But usually the destroyers that are used in PvP are in there for a very, very, very good reason. So sadly, I'd say she's not a crazy ship to go for unless you're taking PvP seriously. But let's be honest here, who really does take that seriously? However, for one final note, she is an absolute cinnamon roll of a waifu, so treat her like Admiral Graf Spee. Hugs and head pats. And that will be all for Aurora. Hope this helps you in your future sorties. As usual, the list is on screen in front of you. Still have a few characters to dive through, so hope you're all ready for that. This list is truncated, so you might want to check the link in the description for the full list. If you see a girl that's not on the list and I have not covered them, then feel free to let me know in the description below. Up next is St. Louis. Yes, that one. Before any of you get any clever ideas, let me remind you, no Nut November. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Now, whether you are a regular viewer or a patron supporting the channel on Patreon, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys again real soon.